There are thousands of unsolved true crime and missing person cases from around the world that remain cold. In some circumstances, the cases have been almost solved, but they just need the last piece of information to settle the case. But in others, there are too many missing pieces, and looking into these unsolved cases can often lead to more questions than answers. Number 5. For more than 25 years, the disappearance of Stacy Pennant has remained an unsolved cold case. Stacy was a 21-year-old woman living in Queens, New York City, when she vanished without a trace in 1995. She was an extremely busy young woman, balancing studying at Queensborough College in the day with a graveyard shift as a cargo handler for Delta Airlines at JFK Airport at night. Her mother said that if she wasn't at work or college, she would be at home sleeping or studying. But on February 9, 1995, she was at neither of these places. A male coworker and a friend had managed to convince Stacy to take a rare evening off for herself. They went to a cinema to watch the movie Higher Learning. It had taken some convincing to get Stacy to go out, but when she was out, she seemed to be in good spirits. She'd recently broken up with her boyfriend, but according to her coworker, that wasn't bringing her down. After the movie, she told her friend that she needed to go home to study. She dropped her friend off at his house in Brooklyn at about 11:30 p.m., then went off in the direction of the Belt Highway, never to be seen again. It should have taken just 30 minutes for Stacy to get home, but she never arrived back. When Stacy was first reported missing, her ex-boyfriend and coworker were both cleared of any involvement in her disappearance. It wasn't long before people began to draw a connection to the disappearance of another young student, Kimberly Antonakos, who vanished in the same area where Stacy was last seen. However, Kimberly's body was found not long after, and someone she knew was convicted for taking her life. The criminal responsible had no known connection to Stacy. The fact that Stacy's blue Honda Civic Del Sol has never been located likely points to her disappearance being a tragic accident. There were a number of waterways she would have passed on her way home. If she had taken a shortcut around the airport where she worked, rather than dealing with airport traffic that she would have otherwise hit, it's possible she'd had an accident on the Pan Am Road and ended up in the Bergen Basin. This was a restricted waterway, which would explain why the car was never found. Until either Stacy or her car is found, it's likely this cold case will remain unsolved. Number 4. Mary Virginia Carpenter had plans to go into a nursing home or become a lab technician after finishing her studies at Texas State College for Women. She arrived at the university on the evening of June 1, 1948, to enroll in the summer semester, arriving from her hometown of Texarkana. But Virginia would never enroll at the university or check into her dorm. The case into her disappearance has been a cold one for more than 70 years. Virginia was last seen by a cab driver named Edgar Zachary. She had traveled to Denton by train and met another woman planning to enroll at the college during the journey. After leaving the train, the two women shared a cab, driven by Zachary, to their halls of residence. It was only after they arrived that Virginia realized she forgot to check on her luggage that would be arriving separately, and asked Zachary to take her back to the train station. The other woman offered to accompany them, but Virginia said that she would go alone. The luggage wouldn't be arriving until the next day, so Virginia paid Zachary $1 to collect it. He drove Virginia back to the dorm, Brackenridge Hall, and dropped her off at around 9:30 p.m. According to Zachary, there was a cream-colored car parked outside the dorm. There were two women, one described as tall and the other as chunky. Virginia claimed that she knew them and went to greet them. According to Zachary's wife, he arrived home at 10 p.m. The next day, he collected Virginia's suitcase, took it to the hall, and left it outside for her. It was never claimed. Virginia was reported missing a few days later when none of her family or friends had heard from her. Zachary allegedly passed multiple lie detector tests, and Virginia's boyfriend was also cleared. Years later, Zachary's now ex-wife claimed he had asked her to lie for it, and that he had actually come home much later than he said. He also had a history of violence, but he was never charged in Virginia's disappearance. A number of sightings and tips have come over the years, but no sighting has been confirmed and every tip has led to a dead end. Most of the people involved in the initial case have now passed away, and it's possible this cold case will never be solved. Number 3. Marine Alan Addis was almost 8,000 miles away from home when he vanished without a trace on the Falklands Islands in 1980. It's possibly one of the biggest unsolved cold cases to have ever taken place on the territory, and what happened to Alan remains unknown. Alan and a small group of other Marines were on an exercise to train civilians in a settlement on East Falkland. On August 7, 1980, Alan and 2 others left their base at Stanley in a small coastal steamer. They were to travel south to the settlement of North Arm to collect some other Marines before traveling back to the settlement of Fitzroy. The group arrived in North Arm without issue, though Alan was feeling seasick, so was left on the boat while the others left to help pack up weapons. By dinner, Alan was feeling better and waited to join them for an evening at the social club. What happened at the social club is a story that has multiple versions, but the most common story is that Alan and a North Arm resident got into an argument about another Marine, who Alan thought to be a poser. The other Marine was violent in nature, but popular in North Arm. At the end of the night, the 2 other Marines couldn't find Alan, but assumed that he'd left with someone. When they collected their torches from behind the bar, though, Alan was still there. They went back to the boat for the night, and the following day left without doing a head count. Alan wasn't on board and was never seen again. When the boat arrived in Fitzroy, they sent word to North Arm that Alan was missing. However, some people believe North Arm already knew about the missing Marine, as apparently someone was sent to send word to another nearby settlement hours earlier. The initial investigation was extremely flawed, and it was immediately ruled that Alan had either fallen into the water drunk or stumbled inland and passed away due to exposure. But over the years, especially after the war, more thorough investigations have taken place. It's not believed that someone claimed Alan's life, and it's possible many people knew or still know the truth about what happened to the missing man, but have remained silent on the topic. Extensive searches have taken place, but no evidence whatsoever has turned up. Number 2. The true crime story of William Dean's cold case sounds more like a work of fiction than a real-life mystery. It includes everything from German spy rings to a psychic detective, but the central mystery remains unsolved. Who took William Dean's life on August 13, 1918? William was a retired doctor living in Jaffrey, New Hampshire as a gentleman farmer. He and his wife lived in a bungalow on their property, which included a hilltop farm in a mountainous area. The area had come under scrutiny in recent months. Even though America hadn't entered the World War yet, there was a real fear of German spies, especially when an unidentified plane was seen over a shipyard the previous year. There were reports of flashing lights in the mountains, which were believed to be signals from German spies. But on the night of August 13th, that wasn't on William's mind as he went out to milk his cow. He had the unusual habit of milking her at midday and midnight, and he was heading up to the barn for the midnight milking. He didn't return home, and when a farmhand arrived for work the next morning, William's wife asked him to look for her husband. William's body was found tied up in his rain cistern. One of the primary suspects was a man named Charles Rich, a banker and politician. Rich was a friend of William's who had come to visit him about 2 hours before he was last seen alive. He had a black eye and head wounds, which he claimed came from when a horse kicked him. He'd gone to see William for advice on treating his wounds. Many believed that this wasn't true, and Rich had sustained the wounds in a fight with William when he claimed the man's life. Strangely, shortly before he passed away, William had asked another friend to contact police in Boston for him. He said he had something to tell the authorities, and whether it was about the potential spies, Rich, or something else is another factor that will remain a mystery. If there were spies in the hills, they were never found. The criminal responsible for Williams's passing was never found, and the case remains one of the strangest mysteries from the area. Number 1. The unsolved cold case disappearance of a doctor on the small Massachusetts island of Nantucket is the strangest unsolved mystery to come from the island. Dr. Margaret Kilcoin had just made the biggest breakthrough of her career, one she was expecting to receive international recognition for. But when she vanished without a trace, her brother was quick to conclude that she had taken her own life. In 1980, Margaret was a 50-year-old researcher at Columbia College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York. Her primary interest was hypertension, and she and her coworker had just confirmed the existence of a chemical they believed to be a key breakthrough in the field. On January 23rd, she left her laboratory, telling her colleagues that she would be back the following week. She had a house in Nantucket that she was planning on vacationing at to celebrate her achievement. She also called her brother Leo, who she was very close to. During a long 90-minute conversation where she did almost all of the talking, she told him she was going to the island and he planned to meet her there. Margaret appeared in good spirits when she arrived on Nantucket. She and Leo had dinner with some neighbors where she again shared her excitement about the discovery. She was also talking about a spiritual test she had passed. Margaret was described as a devout Catholic, and for some that knew her, this didn't seem too out of the ordinary. However, Leo and the two friends were both concerned about her mental state. That evening, she asked Leo to wake her at about 6 the following morning and went to bed between 10 and 10:30 p.m. Leo heard her alarm go off but didn't wake her because he thought she needed the rest. When he went to check on her at 6:45 a.m., he found the bedroom empty. Margaret wasn't in the house, but her winter boots and coat were, and her car was still parked outside. At 7:15 a.m., he called the police to report her missing. Over the next few days, there were significant searches in the areas around Margaret's home, and some further afield, but no trace of her was found. Leo was already certain she had claimed her own life, and police believed that to be the case at first, too. Then, just over a week after Margaret vanished, some dog walkers came across a strange discovery in a swampy area a mile northeast of Margaret's home. They found neatly piled at the edge of a clearing Margaret's passport, savings book, sandals, and a wallet containing $100. Some sources claim this was found in an area that was already searched. The search parties resumed, now focused on this clearing. A brown blouse that had been rolled up into a ball and tucked away in some underbrush was found, which is believed to have belonged to Margaret. It was in an area that couldn't have easily been accessed, but again, Margaret herself was never found. The investigation took police off-island a number of times, first to New York and then to Connecticut to interview a woman who'd had dinner with Margaret when she was traveling to Nantucket. The woman again described Margaret as excited and extremely talkative. She went over the discovery that she had made and how she planned to set up a lab on Nantucket. She even offered the woman's sister and the waitress that was serving them jobs in the future lab. The police chief became increasingly certain that Margaret hadn't taken her own life, but there seemed to be no way that she could have gotten off of the island without being noticed. The only possibility was that she'd been on a small plane that may have taken off from the island airport before it was opened and manned. The possibility of a mental breakdown resulting in the loss of her life, as is the theory that her brother believed, is still possible, and it's possible the items had been missed during the initial searches. Other theories put forward were that Margaret was smuggled off the island to be admitted to a mental health facility in Canada, as such a thing would have been damaging to her reputation. After so many years, it seems possible this unexplained mystery may never be solved, and it will forever remain a strange unsolved part of Nantucket's history. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.